Hello, thank you for joining me. My name is Kujo. So, today I would like to talk about the reaction that I've been seeing on the Constitutional Court's judgment on Jacob Zuma's refusal to appear at the ZONDO Commission. So, my video is not meant to discuss the judgment itself because I am no legal expert. So I'm not even going to try that. But I'm a lot more interested in some of the reaction that I've been noticing and I've been analyzing even on myself, some of the reflection that I've been making on my own reactions about everything that has been, that has been panning out in as far as this Jacob Zuma matter is concerned. So as we know, Jacob Zuma was called to testify at the ZONDO Commission, and at some point he then decided that he's no longer interested, he's not going to show up, and the matter was eventually escalated to the Constitutional Court, which ruled that Jacob Zuma should be imprisoned for 15 months. And obviously Ubaba refused. He's not going to do that. And by now we know that there are people who are very much in support of him. They don't want to see Ubaba going to jail. They will go all out and do anything and everything necessary to protect him. Some people are even camping outside of his homestead. We saw with the MK, what is it? The Mkhonto, the military veterans that are out there. Other people are there in their own personal capacities and, in whatever capacities that they find themselves there. So I generally see that it's almost as though there are two camps for this matter. There are those people who, will go all out, will do everything that they can to support Ubaba. And then there are others people who feel enraged and who almost feel offended by the thought that there are other people who would actually go out of their way to support Ubaba. And this then creates a lot of, emotional drama. It creates a lot of turmoil because it just it's very difficult to fathom how it is possible that other people would support Jacob Zuma after what he did. So my first point is going to be that Jacob Zuma's behavior is a neutral circumstance, and that it is your thoughts about his behavior or his actions that make a judgment on whether this is good or this is bad. I think this is the first point that I'm going to make, that whether or not his actions are good or whether they're bad, that is your own thinking. For the mere fact that there are other people who hold a polar opposite position from yours is actually proof that there is no objective stance on this matter. Every one of us has their own opinions, but I think it's very important to understand that his behavior, his actions, those are very neutral circumstances. And it is our own thinking of it, our own interpretation of what he decided to do that makes it good or bad. The stance that you hold, whether you feel a strong conviction, whether you feel very strongly about it or not, it doesn't matter. It's a subjective feeling. It's a subjective experience. And, sometimes, especially when you hold a very strong position on something and you have physiological reactions to that belief that you hold about something, you then find yourself thinking that it must definitely be the truth because it's backed up by the physiological, reactions that you experience. But we can't say that that is true, because if that were the case, then drugs would be a great thing. It would be a good idea to take recreational drugs, because then you could live on that dopamine high, because getting that dopamine high then means that you feel in another world. I've never taken drugs, but from what I hear, it gives you a high, right? So those physiological reactions that we get because of the beliefs that we hold about something are not necessarily proof that we can rely on our thoughts about those things, right? And another point that I'm going to make is that his actions or his behavior, his position on this matter is not at all responsible for your feelings, right? I think oftentimes because we always want to be in control of things, then it means that if another person behaves in a certain way, then their behavior definitely has an effect on how I feel, on my emotions, you know. But that is not the case, because the way that you feel, or the way that your emotions respond to that matter, it all has to do with your interpretation of the thing. It all has to do with how you're thinking about this matter. So it's not that Obaba decided not to go to jail that makes you feel enraged, that makes you feel that, oh my word, I can't believe that these people are standing up for him. They are not responsible. He's not responsible for your rage. Okay, your thoughts about it are what make you feel however way you feel. I think that is very important. And it's also important to understand that you resisting that that other people may hold a certain stance that is very different from yours will not change the fact that there are people who believe that, right? Resisting that something exists will not change it, will not make it go away. So it's very important to also accept that there are people who hold very polar different views from yours, and that there's nothing you can do to change what they're thinking. And then trying to resist the fact that this thing exists, that there are people who think this way, it will not help you. In fact, I think it's going to bring you a whole lot more emotional drama, a whole lot more of all of that turmoil. It's going to result in you suffering a whole lot more, resisting that other people hold a different view from yours. And it's not surprising, actually, because I think that our brains hate uncertainty. Our brains hate the fact that it's quite possible that I could be wrong. Like, just the thought that I am not sure about what might happen. My primitive brain is probably thinking, oh my word, she might just die, and the brain will do by all means possible to ensure that I do not die. So it's for that reason that oftentimes our brains would much rather take a black and white, stance to say it's either you're wrong or you're right. And if you're wrong, then it means that you're going to die. So your brain does not like that, because trying to think things through and trying to look for any other alternative way of explaining things, it is very hard. Like, it's very energy consuming. So your brain would much rather go the route of energy efficient way. So it's okay, because our brains hate uncertainty. So I think it's quite important when you find yourself feeling strong emotions about something such as this one here. If you're feeling strongly about it and it makes you literally have physiological reactions towards it, I think that is a calling for you to sit down and really, really, really be curious about what the other person might be thinking. And this leads me to my next point, to say that, because we spend most of our time entertaining our own thoughts about, whatever it is that it may be, we spend a lot of time entertaining our own thoughts about things. It very seldom occurs to us that actually there are other ways that people may be thinking of this thing, right? Just because you spend a whole lot of time thinking about this constitutional ruling in a certain way does not mean everybody is thinking about it in that way. And, you know, we know by now, because there are, you know, almost as though there are two camps here. There are other people who are like, we will fight for Ubaba, we will protect him with all that we have. And then there are other people who are just like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that you guys are doing this, right? So my closing statement here is that be curious. Be genuinely curious about the people that you differ with. Like, especially the people that you hold polar opposite stances on. It's very important to be curious about what alternative ways they could be using to rationalize whatever point it is that, you know, is at hand. And to not just do it for the sake of your own ego, but to be genuinely curious and ask yourself, what other ways could there be in this matter? Perhaps those people who are standing outside Ubaba's homestead, perhaps those people, some of them, and I'm going to use this as a hypothetical explanation. I'm not saying it is true. I'm just using it as a hypothetical, you know, explanation to say that maybe they genuinely feel that those who are coming for him are attacking, I don't know, the Zulu people, and they will go all out to protect people of their own tribe, right? Maybe just that. I'm not saying it is true. Now, whether or not this is irrational, whether or not their reasoning may be rational, I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter, because the point of the matter is that their thinking, that thinking exists. That thinking is there, right? And you resisting it will not make it go away. And in fact, you resisting it will only cause you a lot of turmoil, a lot of emotional drama. So I think being curious about other people's alternative ways of viewing things, even if you don't get the opportunity to sit down with them and ask them questions, but to actually sit down with yourself and think, like, what is it that I'm missing here? Like, is there any lesson that I'm missing out of this, right? Is there anything that I can learn from this? Like, what thing am I missing here? I think it's quite important for us to do that. And yeah, that is it for me today. I hope that if you have found yourself feeling really strongly about this, if you have found yourself getting really strong emotions about this, I hope this has been helpful for you. And well done if you have reached this point of the video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it has been helpful. Give it a like if you like this, and thank you. Goodbye.